Hi everyone, Specs here. I've been editing this podcast using Audacity, so if the quality sucks, it's because that program does and I hate it and I'm never using it again. Catsman has fixed the RSS feed, so you should be getting podcasts into your usual podcast app again now, but this will be a fairly visual podcast, so I'm going to make a YouTube edit, which has a lot of images and videos of the things that we talk about. We do our best to describe things, so it should still be listenable, but if you want that extra visual feedback, then you know where to find us on lunchtime.org.uk and on youtube.com/TheGLASTREAM. Check the links in the description. See you later. So I told at least 4 people about the year of the egg today.
It's the year of the egg.
Eggs.
I ended up telling someone about how last year, because it was the year of the worm and it was also an Olympic year, they introduced a new race at the Olympics called the Early Bird Catches the Worm race, which is like a 100-meter sprint, but you have to crouch down and pick up a long draft excluder in the shape of a worm, pick that up and then run back to the start of the race with it. And obviously this is a lot more difficult than a 100-meter sprint, because if you're going too fast when you stop to try and pick up the worm, you're going to overshoot. So it led to a lot of techniques like people having to do forward rolls to grab the worm, turn on the spot and then start running back. And of course the worm itself adds a lot of drag, a lot of air resistance. And also because it's quite heavy as a draft excluder, it offsets your gait slightly. So people were coming up with different ways to hold the worm in order to minimize drag and lopsidedness, such as wrapping it around their necks or waists.
At what point, when you were prattling on about this stupid tale, did the person you were talking to just walk off?
They didn't. They stayed there. They were for it.
Because you strapped them down.
I've met Specs' friends, and I can tell you, they love him. They think he's amazing.
No, I was telling a woman I'd only met for the first time 20 minutes before this.
Please, doctor, just give me my medicine.
No.
No.
Not until I've told you about the year of the worm.
Hello, you're listening to the Lunchtime Podcast. I'm here with Animitch.
What's up, guys? Animitch here.
And Moogle.
Yeah, I'm here.
And that man Specs.
It's me, Specs.
I think today we're mostly just going to be talking about nonsense, but then, later probably this year, we'll have a long podcast that's entirely about video games. So look forward to that. Do you want to start with video games as a warm-up or what?
What kind of video games?
Hustle-type video games?
Yeah.
Oh.
For the book club, we played Yomi Hustle, which is functionally a fighting game hybridized with a turn-based strategy game. So it uses a lot of the concepts from fighting games, but you pick all of your moves from a giant menu, and the game plays out sort of like in 1 second intervals, basically.
Not even that.
Yeah, sometimes it's shorter depending on what moves are taken, but if you've ever played like Frozen Synapse, it's kind of like a fighting game
Or Tory Bash.
counterpart to that. Or, as the developers once wrote, Tory Bash but good.
Which is fair enough.
I think we all really liked this game, but as I have played the least of it of everyone here, maybe somebody else would like to give their thoughts on it.
You've probably seen, dear listener, you've probably seen clips of Yomi Her Soul online where it's just the fight itself, and then you may go to the store page or even buy it, and then you are met with a huge list of options, a 30-second time limit, and then getting your shit pushed in by someone who spams Wizard. What was the question?
Coming back to the idea that it's a turn-based strategy game, really. I guess the whole of the game comes down to really the game is all about predicting what your opponent's going to do. You have, as Mitch says, this whole list of options of different attacks you've got. Each character has maybe like 20 attack options available to them at the start of a match, as well as predicting what you're going to do. So I could say click a move and say I'm going to do a jab, and it's a 4-frame attack, and I can see how far it's going to hit. I can also put in an option for what I predict my opponent's going to do and see whether I will win the interaction. So I might predict that they're going to do a poke attack to me that might reach me. So I might think, well, I've not got an option that can hit them at this distance. So maybe I will dash backwards. And then I can click through all of their options and be like, well, if he uses this, he can hit me. If he doesn't use that, he can hit me. What's he thinking I'm going to do? And as well as that, you can put in like a directional influence so that if you do get hit, you get knocked in a different direction than the other person might be expecting you to get knocked in when they hit you. And it's all really just about trying to figure out what's the most likely thing my opponent's going to do so that I can choose an option that beats that, or at least set up a situation where a couple of moves down the line I can beat that.
I think the big question is it a good fighting game or a good way to teach fighting game concepts? Because there's a couple pseudo small fighting games, like what's that one called? Footsies? Is that one where it's basically, that's a good way to teach a concept of a fighting game. What about, I guess this one would be teaching frame data?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's about frame data. It's also a lot about spacing, I would say. Like, you're trying to set it because of the way you get cancels in the game. So in every neutral interaction, so before anyone gets hit or blocks, you get 2 free cancels. So any move you do with some caveats, you can cancel into another move twice for using this resource until you get hit or your opponent gets hit. So part of the game is trying to force your opponent to use their free cancels before you use yours, because then if you start approaching them from there, you can cancel a bad option and trick them into blocking something when they can't change their mind about it anymore. So that's part of the push and pull of it, and a lot of that's to do with where's my character in space versus their character in space, what options do I have that hit at this distance or that distance, or is there a way I can set up a scenario where I can move behind them with one of my special movement options or things like that. So yeah, it's very much, like Mitch says, frame data, does my move beat the other person's move, but also distance and positioning and things like that.
It's also very focused on mind games, because it's turn-based.
Oh, yes.
So, like, the core of the game is, okay, I can see everything that I can do, I can see everything that my opponent can do, I can even test it out in a little sandbox while I wait for the timer. Like, what is my opponent going to do? What am I going to do? And, like, actually learning, based on the name Yomi, of course.
You can't say that.
Learning your opponent and figuring out what they're going to do. I will, and I will talk about that fuckhead in a minute, but we're talking about the game right now.
As a fighting game idiot, I was able to at least follow along a little bit with what the fuck all these people are talking about all the time when they play these stupid games.
I guess we should talk about the characters a little bit. In the base game, because there are lots and lots of mods, it's got a really active community. We've not played any of the mods, but you've got the ninja, who is fairly standard. Every character has like a weird thing they can do, or a few weird things they can do.
These are not stereotypical Shoda, well, grappler maybe for robot, but he's a very mobile grappler.
The ninja, basically, you are very fast, you have a lot of mobility, you've got a lot of air dash options and things, so your game plan is kind of try to dodge around your opponent until they make a mistake and you can hit them. You can teleport to thrown objects that you throw, like you can use substitute to sort of warp. A lot of the projectile interactions are really interesting in the game, so like if you warp to where a shuriken you've thrown is, the shuriken moves to where you were when you warped. So the shuriken will continue to travel in the direction you threw it, but from the new position you've just swapped with. So you can throw a shuriken, teleport to it, and then have the shuriken come back past you if it's moving fast enough as you move towards your opponent. The ninja can also store momentum on any time they're moving. So you can pick a really fast movement option that gets you going real fast, store that momentum for later by completely cancelling your momentum, and then put it on any attack you have to fly massive distances while doing a move that would normally be very short range, so that you can catch your opponent out. The cowboy is... How would you describe the cowboy, Mitch?
I'll take this. So, Cowboy is a mid-range /zoner. His sword is very long, but not very fast. His fastest sword move is 6, but he utilizes his gun to keep people at a distance. He can also put something called a foresight after image ahead of himself, and he can either teleport to that, cause it to explode, or use it to ricochet bullets off. And you can adjust the angle of where your bullets are ricocheting using your directional input. He's also very fast and mobile and moving around and teleporting all around the arena. So it's to keep your opponent guessing and keep them away, but then when you want to, you can get and close that distance really quickly.
Featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
More like Virgil.
It is very Dante. Or Virgil, I'd say. Yeah, he's got his judgment cut end.
It's good fun. Cowboy was also the character I gravitated to. I think he's very, very fun.
He's got some cool stuff.
Not to get lost in the weeds of just describing all the moves, but basically the thing is balanced, like Brawl Minus, you know. All the characters have these absolutely ridiculous moves, and they all have this vast array of stuff in front of you. It can be quite overwhelming when you start playing.
And then you've got the wizard, which is Catsman's preferred character. Do you want to talk about the wizard, Cats?
Yes, you just run away and spam magic at your opponent.
Yes.
It's very easy to play wizard.
Yeah, so wizard is your typical zoner. Wizard is the person with the most projectile options, so other characters are generally going to have to approach the wizard. Wizard's unique movement option is the missile form, where the wizard can basically launch themselves really fast with like an explosion. You can set up certain projectiles that the wizard has to make you move faster as you attain missile form, so you can suddenly get bursts of speed. But the wizard is basically there to cover the screen in shit, so the other player has to try really hard to get to you because they are having to dodge hundreds of different projectiles.
The longer the wizard is alive, the harder it is for you, so you gotta get in quick and kill him.
Yeah, the wizard's projectiles basically never disappear, so...
The competitive players who came into the stream and said hello to us also complained that the wizard is OP.
But for different reasons, it's worth noting.
Yes, for reasons that I, in my foolishness, did not fully comprehend.
Of course. Because you played it very zoning, very keep away, very, I don't want the enemy anywhere near me, I'm going to leave as soon as you come within, like, 3 screens of me, I will be on the other side at that point.
But he also has some very fast, quite high priority melee attacks.
Yeah, so they were saying that all the competitive wizard players go in hard, at the same time as putting the screen full of shit. So it's interesting that it's good that there's a number of different ways to play the characters.
Yeah, I think I play a mixture of like zoning and going in on the wizard because I get bored just zoning, whereas Catsman plays pure zoning on the wizard, which is really, really annoying.
It's fun in a way. You play a little shmup.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have so much time, like you get 30 seconds basically to plan your move. You can plan exact angles angles for wherever you want to fire projectiles or how you want to jump over those projectiles. So even if there are like 5 projectiles coming at you, you can usually find a way to get around them because the wizard's projectiles are quite slow moving. But also sometimes characters like the cowboy have ways to change the trajectory of those projectiles as they launch through the air. So the cowboy can like ricochet the bullets in different directions or teleport the bullet while it's in midair to the rifts and things. Next character is the robot, which is the grappler. The robot's cool thing is that they can turn into a car to move faster.
Yeah.
And they also have a bomb that you can spit out and detonate whenever you want, but you also have a move to draw it towards you using a magnet power. So you can just leave the bomb out and then eventually decide, okay, I want the bomb over here now and drag it towards you with a magnet. Very difficult to hit with the bomb in my experience. I usually end up hitting myself. But the grappler is cool in that really you only need to like get 3 hits with them to win, but it's really hard to get those hits because although they are fairly mobile and they can fly around with like a jetpack, they're quite slow to get in to hit, I would say. And then there's the mutant, who is just, I don't really know how to describe the mutant. They have a lot of aerial mobility.
Useless, yes.
They have a meter that depletes over time as they use a special movement option. That I think the mutant's strength is that it's really hard to tell where they're going to be each time you choose an option, because they have this thing that allows them to shift slightly in space by expending this meter that then later on you need to recharge with a specific move that leaves you open. But the mutant's cool. They have quite long combos, a lot of flashy aerial stuff. Yeah, all of the characters are pretty fun to play, I would say, for different reasons. And it is just a fun game. We'll probably keep playing it, I would say.
Yeah, in between playing stupid things on Fightcade or whatever.
I would say this feels more like a strategy game than a fighting game. It's just a strategy game that uses fighting game sensibilities and terminology. Is that the feeling you guys got from it?
Yeah, I would say so. It uses all the rules of fighting games, but it's not really a fighting game.
I think the replay that you get at the end of the thing played in real time is absolutely magical, though.
Yeah.
It really is.
But I find like it's really hard to like learn from your mistakes by watching the replay because it's so fucking fast. There's no way to slow it down or go step by step to learn. That's my complaint with this. It's very, very hard to learn the game if you're going in alone. I fortunately had these 3 idiots to play against, so my mistakes weren't super punishable. But if I were to just jump online, I would get my asshole ripped open.
Yeah. You would be going against people who bought this game when it came out and are still playing it and are very nice,
yes,
but are also really good at this game.
Yeah, they're very nice.
We had a couple of guys come into the chat who were like, hey, can we play? And we were like, I don't know, guys. And they had like a primer guide for us to read, which really helped with understanding a lot of the ways the mechanics in the game works, and they would sort of sit and coach us as we played to let us understand what our options are. But if you play against them, it's like they will be like, okay, I think you're going to do this, and then you'll do it and be like, how did he know that I was going to do that? And like, you just won't touch them the entire game, and it feels really bad because it's like they're in your head. It's awful.
At the risk of asking a stupid question, is that not every fighting game, though, at the end of the day? Coming back to...
No? You ever play Super Smash Brothers? An idiot could play that game.
Yeah, on the other hand, I refer you to the Wazzler incident that happened a couple of months ago.
You can't just say shit like the Wazzler incident.
I can say the Wazzler incident, and I will. So, about 3 or 4 months ago, Marvel vs. Capcom Classics came out. So, it's a collection of all the other Marvel vs. Capcom games, and there started to become interesting messages on the Steam reviews about people refunding the game after meeting a man called the Wazzler, who just infinited them into the ground. The Wazzler is Justin Wong, the world champion of Marvel vs. Capcom in all of its iterations. Absolutely insane. He was streaming it as well. He's like, I'm not going to lose. I'm just not going to lose. I'm going to beat these people down. It was very interesting, and of course Justin Wong is very nice, but at the same time, if you were to come up against him in a game that he's been playing for 20 years plus, he's going to fuck you. You're not going to touch him, even if he's not playing the actual teams that he wins with in competitive format. It's just very, very funny. But the message is like, that is just fighting games. If you pick a fighting game and you're brand new to it and you're matched against people who have been playing for 3-4+ years or whatever, you're gonna get fucked. It's gonna happen.
I think the difference with this is when we played against these guys who were like tournament level players, they would tell you why they knew you were going to do what you were going to do, and you'd be like in a normal fighting game. Because it happens so fast, you don't really have time to think about how did he know I was going to do this. Whereas every step of the way, I was like, oh shit, how is he so in my head about everything I'm about to do?
He knows what you want to do before you know what you want to do, yeah.
The main thing you'll come across with that in mind is the burst system. You have a burst meter, which basically, if your opponent's comboing you, you can burst and end their combo and have them pushed away and return back to neutral. But if they block your burst, you're double fucked. So that's where you're thinking, should I burst now? Is he thinking I'm going to burst? That's that. And it's really bad getting comboed in this game as opposed to other, because if you get comboed in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, 20 seconds later, you're dead, new round. In here, if you miss that burst, or you don't have burst, and they're just comboing you for 10 minutes straight, and your only option is to hit the spacebar button as you watch them think, how best can I destroy you?
Yeah, you skip your turn while someone just gets a whole turn to just hit you.
Not entirely true. So when me and Mitch were playing the other night, I realized just exactly how important DI is in this game. So while you're in a combo, you can, every time you get hit, you can change your directional influence, and during a combo that directional influence gets higher. This is a product of Super Smash Bros., so if you are pushing the stick in a direction in Smash Bros, when you get hit you will go slightly more in that direction than you would if you just had the stick neutral. So in Yomi Hustle, before every time you get hit in a combo, you should be thinking, what do I think my opponent is going to hit me with next? And which way should I try to influence the movement of my character so I'm less likely to get hit by the next bad option on their next hit? So you are still playing the game and you are still thinking, how do I minimize the damage I'm taking? But it can be really difficult to figure out exactly what option is the best way for you to move your character as you get hit to try and minimize the next bad thing happening to you.
I sort of zoned out in the middle of that explanation, but yes.
I want to say that this game's release ready, right? But, I mean, it's £4, but it's really bare bones. Unless you just want a versus, it's kind of bare bones in that. Like, even the single player, where it's just you and yourself, basically, and you're picking moves for both sides on the same machine, there's no quick restart option. So if you want to study matchups and think, okay, what's the best option against Wizard at the very start if I'm Ninja? If you do your opening move, you have to then quit back to the main menu and then reselect your characters and then go back in to try the next option at the start.
User interface design is the hardest part of game design, and this game is evidence of that, because the user interface is A, not very good, B, not very descriptive. It's just a shitload of buttons with weird little icons on them that don't really tell you what they do.
Yeah.
There's a question mark button in the top left.
But it doesn't tell you what each attack does, really.
I literally found that out last night. I saw that button and pressed it, and then, oh, okay. The single player mode does have a rewind button, which is handy. You can, do some really cool combos if that's all you're focusing on, is just looking cool. Because I think the aesthetic of the game is that of early 2000 Newgrounds Stickman animations. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Zao Zao, or what was some other ones? Fucking Killing Spree, I don't know.
The Madness style things as well. Like there's little bits of everything in it from my childhood, and I really like it.
If you want to get into this game, there are some good guides that you can look at on the Steam forums, which will explain a little bit of extra stuff that you wouldn't be able to pick up very naturally. It really helps to get into a Discord or have someone who can teach you how to play the game if you want to get good at it. I think we're all in the place where we're happy playing with each other because we're all a bit shit, and that's the best way to play a fighting game, which is very you want to play with someone who's on your level. So so you don't just repeatedly lose. The problem will be if any of us keep playing it like against randoms and start getting better at the game, they will then just win against everyone else, and it will be less fun to play against them. But yeah, it's cool. It's a good game. It's fun. It was a good book club pick, I think. Thank you, Wooly, who is not here to talk about it.
Typical. Typical. Anyway, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this game, with the exception of the user interface. I think it's really good. And it's pretty cheap on Steam, but if you get it, just know that you should find a friend to play against and not go straight online.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
Definitely
absolutely.
don't do that. Can we talk for 2 minutes about David fucking Serlin?
Yeah,
Yes,
go on then.
yes,
Do your
you
rant,
talk
Moogle.
about
Let's talk about David fucking Serlin. So this game is called Your Only Move is Hustle. And the reason it's called Your Only Move is Hustle is because some fuckhead decided that he was going to copyright a piece of Japanese slang in fighting games, which is called yomi, which is effectively the Japanese slang for reading your opponent and effectively mind games. Like, what is your opponent going to do in a given situation? How do you respond to it? He copyrighted that word and has been effectively putting cease and desist letters to any small indie developer that uses the word yomi in their video game title, because he has a video game which is a card battling game called Yomi, and he struck down, like, he sent these letters to at least 2 or 3 developers, chose not to go after larger ones, which says about as much as it needs to as far as I'm concerned. His claim to fame is that he wanted a game called Chess 2.
Oh, is this the Chess 2 guy?
This is Chess 2, man. He also was the lead designer on Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, which did such lovely things as giving Honda a projectile invincible headbutt, which, if you've played HD Remix, you'll know that that's a fuckle move. But regardless, like, guy's a fuckhead, and I hate him, and I just wanted to talk about copyright trolls like him and that guy who tried to copyright the word edge in relation to video games for many different years, until EA effectively outed him, and he wouldn't go after them for it, so it was free reign for everyone after that. I just fucking hate it.
I would need to consult a lawyer, but my understanding of trademark law is that if you have the trademark, you have to aggressively pursue it or you'd lose it.
Yeah, but it's a fucking Japanese slang word. Fuck off.
Yeah, they shouldn't have given him the trademark in the first place.
Fucking hate copyright law.
Trademarks should be for very, very specific things.
Genuinely fucking awful. Fuck you, David Serlin, and fuck the horse you rode in on.
This reminds me of wasn't there a case where, like, Notch was making a game called Scrolls and Bethesda sued him because of Elder Scrolls?
Yeah.
Yeah, same deal.
Small indie developer with more money than God. You love to see it.
Notch, if you're listening, I hope you're doing well, buddy.
Didn't he say he was making Minecraft 2 in the last few days or something?
He's making Minecraft too. Yeah.
Notch, if you're listening, I hope all that fucking cereal you have in your idiot McMansion is going hella stale.
No!
Notch, if you're listening, write in and let us know what you think of Jason Momoa in the new Minecraft movie.
Do you want to spin the wheel?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Come on! Somehow Sonic CD, even though it has no votes.
Here we go. Eat Girl!
Eat Girl!
Yes!
Eat Girl!
Eat Girl is a game that I wouldn't shut the fuck up about 4 years ago.
Oh, I've played this. It's Pac-Man.
This looks fun.
It's like Pac-Man if it was a survival horror game.
It's got that very peculiar atmosphere that Catsman is fond of.
Love a peculiar atmosphere.
Eat Girl.
What Nintendo?
You remember that I did here's the history of DC Thompson Comics and the Beano.
Yep.
So I was at my parents' house, and there's a lot of Beano, Dandy, etc. comics there, and I started looking through Viz magazines. Viz is an adult-focused comic, probably not allowed to sell it to under 18s, to be fair, in the UK, which takes the piss out of things like the Beano. So I'm going to read you some character names from that. Give me a second.
By the way, we should clarify that Viz is not the same company that does all of those like manga localizations. They are 2 separate companies, both named Viz, that are in the comics industry.
Yes, it's not Viz Media. You remember how we had things like Ed First, He'll Be First or Burst, and various other characters. Roger the Dodger. Everyone's got like a rhyming name. In Viz Comics, you have people like Sid the Sexist, Tommy Banana Johnson, Aldridge Pryor, he's a hopeless liar. Jeremy Futcher, his dad's a butcher. Buster Gonad and his unfeasibly large testicles.
These are almost Beano characters. In fact, I would believe some of them were Beano characters.
A direct parody of Desperate Dan that's just called Desperately Unfunny Dan.
That's maybe not their best parody gag, but sure.
I like it. It's one made out of spite and anger.
Miss Demeanor and her concertina, followed by Miss Demeanor and her vacuum cleaner.
Bertie Bunt, his parrot's a cunt.
And the reason I wanted to talk about it on the podcast is because Viz's advertising was very interesting. So people would pay Viz. I assume what would happen is people would pay Viz for advert spaces in their magazine, and sometimes they would ask Viz to come up with the adverts. So you have some adverts that are just really, really rude for things that you wouldn't think. There is a picture of a dominatrix, which is just an advert for a Kit Kat chocolate bar here, for instance.
Pretty sure a Kit Kat is a chocolate bar everywhere. Did the Viz artists make up these pictures? I presumed that they were...
The reason I know some of these were written by the Viz artists is the reason we're talking about this in particular is because Sega paid for a run of adverts in Viz. What I've just linked you to is a Sega retro page of every Viz print advert for Sega. Looking through these in my dad's old Viz magazines, I found most of these. I don't think I found any that weren't on these pages, so I think this is all of them. I think my favourite is the one that just says, "What's blue and pisses all over everything," with a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's very good, isn't it?
There's also things like, over the Christmas period, they had a run of these. There's one that says, "Don't be a mean git at Christmas," and has a picture of the three wise men bringing a Sega Mega Drive to Jesus for his birth.
He would have loved it. He would have absolutely loved it. Altered Beast, he would have been in hog heaven.
It's a Master System in his hands, though, unfortunately.
Oh no! He'll have to play Alex the Kid.
Oh no!
The original sin.
You've got The More You Play With It, The Harder It Gets, which is a top-down view of someone holding a joystick and looks like they're masturbating.
I like the man with 7 pints of piss who can piss the entire Sega logo. That's a superpower.
Yeah, to be this good takes ages. To be this good takes 7 pints, and it's a man pissing the Sega logo into the snow. That's another good Christmas one. I do like Sega Mega Drive More Balls Than Linford Christie, which refers to a sprinter called Linford Christie who just had massive testicles, and you could see the outline of his testicles whenever he ran track at the Olympics.
I love the overly specific cultural reference of Sega advert and athlete I've never heard of.
I've heard of Linford Christie. I'm liking something to do with your hands that won't make you blind. Sega Game Gear. That's very good.
There's a Capcom here with M. Bison hitting, I assume, Guile, and Bison is going, "Are you calling me a pup?" And then Guile is rebutting, "Yes, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person."
Yes. And that's for Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition.
That ad would convince me. £150, I would spend that.
Which pair will be biggest on the beach this summer? And it's a cartoon picture of a lady with big breasts in a bikini, followed by a cartoon picture of a man whose testicles are hanging out of his Speedos, and then just the logos for Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Which one is the tits and which one is the ballsack?
Well, these are the Game Gear games, because they're games you can take to the beach, I think is the joke here. So which of the Sonic Game Gear games do you think is testicles and which do you think is the tits?
If you advertise Sonic Game Gear games to someone with a pair of testicles and they buy them, I think they deserve everything they get. Those games are shit.
Sonic 2 has the Janet Jackson song in it, I think, in Bridge Zone. I think that's Sonic 2, so...
No, I think that's in the first one. That's in the first one on Game Gear. Yeah.
That's in the first one. That's the tits. That's the tits, then.
Yeah, that is the tits, you're right. There's also Sega have dropped one, and it's just a cartoon man farting with a clothes peg on his nose. I think because there's been a price drop on the Mega Drive or something.
A pump-powered commotion by dropping the Mega Drive price. Can you afford not to get a whiff of this one?
I think someone left the office early that day. We need to make a Mega Drive ad. How about a man farting?
The reason I know that Viz wrote some of these adverts is, one of the adverts here is, if you can write in some jokes for us about Sega's advertising, then we will give you a free Sega Mega Drive. So they took reader submissions for their Sega adverts, I think.
What's blue and pisses all over everything?
Sonic Hedgehog. Obviously.
Help, we've run out of ideas, so tie your hair back, slip into some braces, enter the sad world of advertising, and design an advert based on your favourite Sega Mega Drive game. Send your entry to the address below, and if it wins, we'll feature it in the next issue of Viz, and you'll get a Sega Mega Drive and a steaming pile of software. So yeah, I think they did a lot of this advertising themselves. It's funny. Viz is funny in general. There's a lot of interesting satire in it, as well as just a lot of pictures of tits and stuff.
That's your sense of humour.
Yes, that is my sense of humour. There is just also these weird adverts. I'll see if there's any more that aren't video game related that I found.
So that Valentine's Day one, I don't know if you've read it yet. Like, it's the Sega Valentine notice board, and it's like private ads or whatever. Philip, if you really loved me, you'd get me a Sega Master System Plus with handheld light phaser and 2 games, only $99.99. From Elizabeth, in brackets, the second.
It always comes back to her.
This is one of the reader submitted ones that is of the Pope standing at the pulpit, and it says, Johnny says, because it must have been Pope John Paul II, Johnny says, get a Sega or go to hell.
Bite me, Bone Storm, or go to hell.
The Pope can say that. If the Pope said that, you wouldn't be allowed to disagree if you're Catholic. I think he would have liked it in between all of the protecting nonsense. He would have liked a good bit of Alex the Kid.
We've also got things like the new Satsuma Castanet XR4 Turbo is more than just a car, it's a fanny magnet. Drive one and you'll never sleep alone again.
Wonderful.
We've got they used to, so there must have been like a game subscription or like rental service from Virgin called Virgin Games. And there's just a picture of a lady with her bare breasts out, saying, "Look, tossers, get these games or you ain't never gonna use your joystick again." And then Continental Circus, Shinobi, Silkworm, Double Dragon, Ninja Warriors, and Gemini Wing are the advertised games, all available on Amiga, Atari, C64, Speccy, and Amstrad.
Love a bit of Specky.
This is making me nostalgic for, like, 80s British pop culture.
It's making you want to go back to the video game museum, isn't it?
It was easy. All you had to do was make a joke about Maggie Thatcher, and everyone was like, yeah, it's not like today.
Oh, you can't say that about Margaret.
Desperate plea for help from Di's attic prison cell. You know, this was peak Diana times.
That's my little bit on Viz. I think it's really interesting that for the space of about 2 or 3 years, Sega just paid for really crude advertising for the Sega Mega Drive and Master System in a UK, like, adult comic.
And you can tell it worked, because, you know, when I was a kid, one of my friends did have a Master System, and I went over to his house and played it, and I thought it was shit. And it was.
What's weirder, these Viz ads or the Nintendo ads in Playboy?
Nintendo in Playboy is worse, I think.
I think the Nintendo ads it's weirder, definitely, because you don't expect Nintendo to be doing that sort of thing.
You know, though, although Playboy is a porn mag, Playboy is less pornographic than Viz.
I think Viz is cruder, isn't it?
Yeah. Playboy, I don't think Playboy's a porn mag. I think people who says I read Playboy for the articles are telling the truth, because I have a few Playboys and there's only like 3 fannies in them.
Cope.
Yeah. They are mostly articles. We've read them.
Yeah.
You've read them, Animitch.
If you want to look at Fanny or Cock, you want to be getting
Hustler.
XXX Pirate or Hustler.
Oh, yeah.
You just inherited the taste of the old man who stashed all that porn in your attic, haven't you?
We're just back to Gash in the Attic again. It all comes back to Gash in the Attic.
It's going to be like one of those circular narratives where it turns out that I am the old man who left the porn in the attic.
I wish to just give you a load of weird articles from British news. Here's the first one. Anthony Bray sentenced to 4 months for possession of replica Master Sword.
It's like 20 seconds long, 20 centimeters long.
I thought you were going to say the length of the article.
He got 4 months for it, I think, because it was inside his sheath that could be released with the press of a button. The officers said it was a sharply pointed item that could be used as a weapon. He was carrying it openly in Nuneaton town centre. Sergeant Spellman of the Patrol Investigations Unit said, "We take a zero tolerance to bladed articles in public, and Bray has fallen afoul of this."
How was he caught? Was he just showing it off in, like, the Sainsbury's or something?
They say he was carrying it around unsheathed, which, I mean, it is a 6-inch long Master Sword.
He got 4 months in prison for basically carrying a penknife. 6 inches, that's like twice as long as my penis. Okay, so I guess you could say it's equivalent to carrying a kitchen knife, but looking at the picture they've got of it, it looks tiny. It's so thin. Like, it's like a needle.
It looks thin and obviously blunt as well. It does not look sharp,
Fucking
at least
hell.
in that picture.
One of these actions attracted a £5 fine and a smack on the botty. The other attracted mild rebuke.
You know, he had to pay £154 and he had 4 months in prison.
Jesus Christ.
Matthew Broderick had to pay £175, and that's all for killing two people.
Inflation. We watched The Producers last night, and we, as does happen, we found out that Matthew Broderick killed 2 people in Ireland via a car crash. And he got off with a £100 fine, and that's all.
You see him in the Producers, the 2005 one though. You look in his eyes, and he's doing that "I killed 2 people and got away with it scot-free" look. It's part of why his performance doesn't work, in my opinion.
I mean, whenever I watch The Lion King now, I'm going to be thinking about how he ran those 2 Irish children down.
Are they Irish children?
It was a mother and
You just
and
invented
daughter.
It was a mother and child, I
A
think.
mother and child. Oh, God.
I think the child.
They were probably listening to the soundtrack to The Lion King as he ran into them. Let me fact check that. I need to know when it happened and when The Lion King came out. Give me a second.
Do you think, I mean, Disney's cagey about this stuff. Do you think they would have had him in after he killed 2 Irish children?
Does Disney care for the Irish?
Not especially. They're just cagey about employing people who have killed 2 Irish children.
It was a mother and daughter.
Oh my god, he'd killed them before The Lion... When did The Lion King come out? He killed them in 1987.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You can tell then his career had taken a minor dip because he killed 2 Irish people, one of whom was a child. But it went up after that. It was just a minor setback in the trajectory of his life.
The daughter was 28 and the mother was 63.
2 Irish children.
He killed 2 Irish children. Orphans
2 children of Ireland.
with bone. They didn't have bone wasting disease. They were completely healthy. They had very long lives ahead of them. Well, it's a good thing he wasn't carrying a replica Master Sword around Nuneaton Town Centre.
He says he has no recollection. I think the guy who was carrying the Master Sword should have said to the judge, "I don't remember doing it." And then he would have got a lighter fine.
I've genuinely had this one in my list of things for 3 years, and it might be one of those things where it's gone on for so long that they've painted them over and it doesn't look like that anymore. But the headline is "Council Under Fire Over Leaving Town Centre Looking Like Something from Super Mario Brothers." Residents have accused the authority of wasting public funds on a garish eyesore at a time when they're trying to slash £23 million from their budget. And the picture is of 3 enormous, like, neon green plant pots with plants in them that look exactly like pipes from Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, they do.
They do. I mean, why did they paint these green? Like, what did they just become green overnight? Is that what people are complaining about? Like, they've paid to have these painted green when they were just grey or something before?
No, I think they're new green.
No, they came like that new, by the look of the article.
You got to put plants somewhere. Maybe they got a cheaper deal on the green. Like, it's such a stupid thing to complain about. How dare they put green things in our city spaces?
Some of these quotes are here is the bright green contrast against the depressing grey concrete of the city centre.
If you put one colourful thing in a miserable-looking place, it just makes it look more miserable. That's the rule. That's why people will burn your house down if no one else on your street has painted your house in a pastel colour and you do it.
Another quote is, why aren't they spending money investing on getting more businesses? And I'm sure 9 or 12 big plant pots cost the same as investing in a business.
It's a binary choice. You either can invest in business or you can have 9 to 12 large green plant pots that look like they're from Super Mario Brothers.
You just can't have both. It beggars belief. It makes the place look more like something from Super Mario Brothers. They look like those warp pipes Mario jumps down.
Everyone is calling them Mario pipes. It makes us a bit of a laughingstock. That's not what makes you a laughingstock, Warsaw. I'm sorry.
Oh god, is it in Warsaw?
Yeah.
Okay, Warsaw's the only place I've ever been where I went into the toilet in an art gallery and there was a blue light.
Oh dear.
But I don't know what has happened since they put these Mario pipes in, but this is going to be one of those things where if you look at it on Google Maps in a couple of years, it'll be like a local landmark, like the Bood Tunnel.
Well, this is an article from 2021, so maybe we can go on Google Maps.
Can we get an update? Let's have a look.
Warsaw,
hold on.
City centre.
Walsall Mario pipes.
Really?
There's no updates since 2021. Yeah, I can see them on the Google Maps overhead view. They're 2 Gallery Square. They're still there. Well, they're still there as of the most recent Google image thing, which was 2022.
Oh, yeah, here they are.
So it's not super recent. They could have, I think, like everything in Walsall, they'll probably have become faded and grey and aged as time goes on.
Well, you can go from 2019, where they're not there, and then 2022, and they are there. And it's like,
this was a featureless expanse of grey concrete. And in 2021, it's a colourful little installation.
oh, they just keep going, don't they? They go right up the street.
Yeah, there's loads of them.
They're everywhere.
Honestly, you know what?
There's loads of these.
I like the Walsall Mario pipes.
They don't look awful to me.
They are bright green and they look like Mario pipes, and they have little plants in them. Again, in Walsall, which is otherwise a city of pure concrete.
Yeah, it really is. There is no other greenery except for these.
That's not true. I see someone in a high-vis jacket.
Thank you to the woman in Walsall who's bringing colour to an otherwise grey place. Oh man, the pipes go on. They're also in the middle of this thing near the shopping centre. There's fucking shitloads of them.
Yeah, they must have had a deal.
They go all down the line. Did someone at the Walsall Council see Mario pipes listed on Facebook Marketplace or something?
Hold on, there's a picture of a man's head in a toilet. Not a picture, a statue of a man's head in a toilet by Lloyd's Bank. What's going on there?
It's in Walsall. He's probably trying to flush himself away, isn't he?
There's the picture.
Holy shit, they've invented Skibbity Toilet in Walsall. Why weren't we talking about this?
Did you hear, going back to the pipes and Miyamoto from a podcast or two ago, that Miyamoto came up with the idea of putting pipes in Mario when he saw plastic pipes sticking out of walls in Kyoto?
This has resurfaced recently. This has been in the news loads. He told that story years ago, okay? I know I have read every interview by Miyamoto from like 1984 up to 2001, but this is not new news. We have known this for years.
I like that there's a media cycle where the news just there's a slow day and they just recycle things that Miyamoto said in old interviews.
But is it just a lie, Specs? You're the expert here. You can tell us. Is it just a lie?
The story about him calling his son an idiot for being bad at Mario 64 is also not new. A direct quote from him from like probably more like 30 years ago was, I caught myself thinking, geez, is this kid stupid? Is there something wrong with him? About his own son.
One more thing before we move on. If you do want to see the Walsall Skibbity Toilet Monument, Google Source of Ingenuity by Tom Lomax.
I'm looking at it now and I hate it.
I like it. I've been telling you guys about this for literally ages. Every time we mention pigs, I mention like, oh yeah, do you know pigs can play video games? Well, this is that story.
Oh yeah, I remember reading this actually.
They've been doing this. I think they did this research in the 90s. Pigs can play video games with their snouts, scientists find. 4 pigs, Hamlet, Omelette, Ebony, and Ivory, were trained to use an arcade-style joystick to steer an on-screen cursor into walls. Researchers said the fact that the pigs understood the connection between the stick and the game is no small feat, and the pigs continued playing when the food dispenser broke, apparently for the social contact.
Wonderful.
Could you get them to play Pong, do you think?
I bet they could. Oh wow, they go into the whole thing of like some pigs are absolutely shit at this game.
Have we talked about the rat that's like playing Doom as well? Have we ever done that on the podcast?
I don't think so. That rat's not playing Doom. That rat is fully living in Doom.
Yeah, so there's like this setup from 2021. I can't see any new articles about it where they hook this rat up so that it is running on like a sphere that rolls around, and the rat moves around the Doom guy character. I don't know if there's any shooting. I think it might just be mazes they've set up for the rat to run around in Doom in, but it's funny to watch the little rat run around on the orb.
That rat is having an awful time. That's what I think. That rat is literally in the Matrix.
What's wrong with this ugly pig, Ebony? That's a disgusting pig.
Mitch, it's a pig.
No, there are sexy pigs.
Are there?
I don't know, but this weird purple, hairy, balding pig. Ugh.
I think that's just what pigs look like if they're not like bright pink so you can see the hair on them. Anyway, next time you're playing some video games, take a moment, humble yourself. Think like a pig could do this.
And yet they still put yellow paint everywhere.
It's true.
Pigs don't need yellow paint.
Yeah, I bet they don't.
Have you guys heard about the person leaving bananas on a street in Nottinghamshire?
No?
I did hear about that, but I didn't care about it.
There's a mystery joker that has left bananas on the same Nottinghamshire street every month for the last year. It's just a bunch of peeled bananas left on a little plate on a street to rot. The fruity joker leaves up to 20 bananas at the corner of Abbey Road and Windsor Avenue in Beeston, Nottinghamshire.
The fruity joker.
There's only one blagger in the UK, and we know who it is. What are you doing with all those bananas, Specs?
You see, this is the Donkey Kong issue it comes back to. You have that many bananas, you're not going to be able to eat all of them.
It's the economy, isn't it?
The desperation of the note that wishes everyone a happy new year and says, please, no more bananas. I imagine the banana waster looking at that sign and thinking, that couldn't be me.
I'm going to get even more bananas and waste even more.
If you drop something, it depends where you are in Leeds, but if you drop something on the ground, either a huge swarm of rats will materialize at your feet and eat it immediately,
Love that.
or a huge swarm of pigeons will descend from above and eat it.
Controversy abound at the Conquer World Championships, in which the winner of the men's competition was done in for cheating for using a quote-unquote metal conker to achieve victory. So this man, who calls himself the King of Conkers, he's been trying for 40 years to win the competition, and he was found to have a metal conker on his possession. And he claims that he uses the metal conker to amuse children. In that, when children play him at conkers and he uses the metal one, their conker smashes. And they can't believe it. And he also says, it's impossible to cheat at conkers. It's a load of nonsense.
It just can't be done.
Okay, so there's levels to this, which is that the guy won the Conkers tournament and was dubbed King Conker, and is shown in the video with a giant, crown on his head and like an official Conker King robe. Then afterwards, the person he lost to accused him of swapping his real Conker for a metal one, to which he replied, yes, I have a metal conker, but it's not the one that I used to win the Conkers tournament. And it would be obvious which one I used to win the Conkers tournament, but I'm not sure if that's true, really.
There was an update to this, and it was found that he had won legitimately, and he just likes to carry around a metal conker with him. And that jacket is his own. Like, they don't give him that jacket.
Don't give him the jacket. Oh, well, screw that.
That's his jacket.
In
Love
that case,
that.
he dressed to win Conkers then, didn't he?
I've got a video here of him giving an interview, and he's wearing a top hat that he has surrounded the brim of with conkers, like a little decoration piece.
This is going to be one of those things where like a viewer messages in and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, conkers? What is conkers?
So conkers is you go out into the world and you find yourself chestnuts.
Horse chestnuts, yeah.
So you find horse chestnuts. You then can either dry them out or pickle them or whatever. But basically you drill a hole through them and then you tie a shoelace on them. And then the game is you have two people with conkers on strings, and then you hit your opponent's conker, and then they hit yours, and you go back and forth until one of yours breaks. If you're familiar with the children's toy battle conkers, it's the traditional version of battle conkers, which were these horrifying creatures that had faces and whatnot on them. Let me get a picture of battle conkers.
Wow, I can't believe they've tried to commercialize conkers by making a plastic simulacrum of something you can find for free on the ground.
It's worth noting the Queen of Conkers this year, or I guess last year, was an American. The first ever American won the tournament after only discovering conkers after a year, and she became the Queen of Conkers.
I think that tells you how much actual skill is involved in conkers.
No, she's just a prodigy. She's just a prodigy.
I think I heard she was like visiting on holiday and was like, oh yeah, I'll join the Conkers tournament.
Latent power.
I mean, I think everyone at the World Conkers tournament, except the guy who accused the winner of cheating, isn't really in it for fun. They're just there to have a nice time. They were probably really annoyed by this scandal. Can you imagine having a drama-free Conkers community for 39 years, only for it to be ruined by some loser? £47.78 for a collectible limited edition Battle Conkers? Fucking hell.
You know where you might find battle conkers? At your local game store, where they sell all manner of tat, but not video games.
Do you mean game or do you mean Sports Direct?
I mean game/Sports Direct. I mean the game that's inside the local Sports Direct. So game, dear international viewers, listeners, it is the only remaining retail chain where you can purchase new video games, allegedly. Or it's a specialist store specifically for video games.
Physical store that you can walk into.
Physical game. Yeah, with your legs. But it's been taken over by conglomerate Sports Direct, which is a big retail chain for sports products that they sell direct to customer. In that acquisition, the parent company have essentially gutted all the admin from game because that they don't need them, because they'd have double the managers, double the, I don't know, CEOs or whatever, so we don't need them anymore. And so game has become a shell of its former self, selling all manner of things that aren't video games, and they don't know how to operate anymore. Like, they don't get the right amount of pre-orders, the pre-order bonuses don't happen, the pre-orders don't occur on time, etc., etc.
I went into one recently, and they just, like, most of it is not video games. It's mostly like board games and toys and like bad, like, graphic T-shirts with video game references on. They're very similar to like gadget shops like Red 5 and Mankind now, where they sell you like sort of novelty bottle openers and stuff.
I don't know, like, what else would they sell these days? People just buy games digitally now. Actually, that's not true. Particularly with the secondhand stuff. People go nuts for fucking old video game tat.
And that's what Game and Game Station, which Game absorbed earlier on, was the pinnacle. You'd go in, there'd be a huge swath of pre-owned games that you could buy at a fraction of the cost of a new one, and that was their main business operation, because they would get the full profit of your... You'd walk in with a bag full of 3DS games or DS games or whatever. You give them 20 of them, they give you £1.50, and you'd walk out, and then they'd sell those DS games for £15-20 each, and they get that profit.
I mean, I'm going to be honest here, like, the retail situation in the UK was like, in the late 90s, you had Electronics Boutique, which I loved when I was a kid. I thought Electronics Boutique was sick. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but it was a wonderland of bargain bins and heavily discounted objects. And then Electronics Boutique, did it transform into Game Station, or did it just disappear entirely?
I think it was a transformation of some kind, because EB basically just disappeared completely.
Yeah. But Game Station was all right, and Game was always shit. Game Station, I think, is the...
Yeah.
I think Game is the equivalent of, like, the US brand, like, GameStop. Like, for reference, that's the level of shit we're talking. They were always garbage. It was always, like, overpriced crap and 100% upsells, basically, all the time. And it's just gotten worse and worse. And yeah, walking into one now is like walking into a Maplin Electronics right before they all shut those down. It's just like a wasteland of junk that has nothing to do with the thing that they're supposed to be selling.
Quote unquote nerd tat.
Yeah,
definitely.
I hate nerd tat shops. I hate them all so much. I hate Funko Pops. I hate PVC anime figures. I hate all of it. I hate fucking AI-generated posters. I was in a seaside tat shop in Skegness, and the new thing is definitely paying £20 for a 3D holographic poster where the subject is obviously AI-generated. But I did get a fridge magnet that says, "Welcome to Skeg Vegas" on it. Still, we went to Animitch's place, and people where Animitch lives absolutely love going to the mall. We couldn't even go bowling. We went to the bowling alley, and we were like 4 for bowling, and they were like, it'll be about an hour and a half before you can bowl. And we were like, what the hell? And, we discussed it for like 30 seconds, turned around. We were like, okay, we'll go bowling in an hour and a half. And the guy was like, oh, sorry, in the time that it's taken you to converse about this, the bowling slot that you were looking at has been booked by someone else.
And we went through that mall, and I swear it was twice as large as I expected. It was the biggest mall I have ever been in my life.
House of Leaves ass mall. You haven't been to Milton Keynes, though. Milton Keynes is the whole, like, inner layer of Milton Keynes' mall.
Oh, actually, I have been to that giant Milton Keynes mall when I was very small, actually. It's like a dome, isn't it? It's enormous.
The Wikipedia article for Game, under the C also, it lists Total Biscuit as former retail employee of Game. I did not know that. Imagine, like, going to Game and seeing Total Biscuit there behind the counter, offering to let you pre-order, I don't know, Ratchet and Clank 3 up your arsenal.
He loves it.
He absolutely loves it. Now I'm fucking going mad because I just went to the fucking Wikipedia page for Sex, and it says the Sex logo was designed by Charlie Brooker.
Yeah, Charlie Brooker used to work for CEX. He did like lots of comics and stuff for it before he left for greener pastures.
Do you mean sold out? Yes, exactly.
Getting a job at the BBC and marrying a Blue Peter presenter.
Yes.
I would say, yeah, that's selling out.
Also, yeah, by the way, lest you are an international listener now confused as to why I'm talking about sex. Sex is where you go if you want a overpriced second-hand video game that smells like piss.
Or the one place left that you can buy DVDs now.
DVDs are going to be like collector's items in 5 years. People are going to go nuts for DVDs. That's my prediction.
Well, yeah, I mean, tape and vinyl are coming back, so why not CDs and DVDs next? You idiots! We have better mediums now!
I feel once the streaming services die, or like your local area internet goes down because of some natural disaster or incompetence by your government, you will need the physical media.
I do fear the death of all of the stuff that is hosted on streaming sites, because there's already stuff that you can't get access to in any way legally because it was never released physically and they've like shut it down. They've taken it off their servers as a tax write-off. Fuck big corpo, am I right?
It's gonna go the other way, where like movies only get released to streaming services. There won't be a DVD, and if it goes off the streaming service, you just can't have it forever.
Is the whole of the Netflix model just the producers, where they say, "Oh, this one isn't doing well. If we take it off our streaming site, we'll get a tax rebate, and we'll make more money than it cost us to shoot it." That's what they're doing, isn't it? They're hiring Matthew Broderick years on from a fatal car crash of 2 Irish orphans.
They're their whole lives ahead of them.
He's back to this again.
Do you think we can get sued if it's true?
You can in the UK, yes. We've not really criticised him. We've just stated the truth, which is that he has the blood of those 2 Irish people on his hands. That's not I'm not offering my own personal opinion here.
I'm not laughing at their death. I was laughing at something Moogle was thinking about.
He was thinking about their death.
No, he wasn't. Don't say that. Now I'm laughing at something else.
Hold on. Sex was founded by a guy named Hugh Mann?
No.
A robot designed to work in and around Hughes.
I want to talk about board games based on video games, because I think with the boom in board games that has happened, I would say fairly recently, let's say in the last 10 years, everyone's getting into board games now. And along with that has become a load of licensed shitty garbage poo-poo, where anything gets a board game nowadays. And every video game major release gets a board game with it now. And I think it's ridiculous, and I want to talk about how shit they are for a little bit, and then talk about the Darkest Dungeon Kickstarter, which is a wild ride.
Counterpoint, video games have always had board games since the 80s and whatnot, because it's cheaper to buy a board game than it is a video game and a video game console. And everything back then had a board game equivalent to it. There was Full House, the board game. There was Rodney Dangerfield had a board game. There were multiple Elvis board games, etc., etc. So that
is fair. But like the thing is, board games back then were just all bad. At some point in the 90s, some German guy discovered how to make good board game. And I think the people who design video game board games just haven't caught up with that.
I think there's an element of that, but I think there's also, I think because board games are good now, as opposed to back when we just had Monopoly and Mousetrap and shit like that.
Hey, leave Mousetrap out of this.
Okay, sorry. The thing is, these are board games that are being marketed to adults, not to children. So back in the day, there was a Donkey Kong board game based on the Donkey Kong arcade game. It's a little bit like Snakes and Ladders. You roll dice, and depending on the outcome, Mario can move... Well, sorry, he wasn't called Mario then.
Jumpman?
He was Mr. Video, actually, internally. So Mr. Video will move left, right, or up and down ladders if you have the option. You draw cards cards if you land on certain spaces, and those cards allow you to do things like jump or swing a hammer. And the other die that you roll moves the barrels that Donkey Kong is throwing, and you get more points the more cards you play through the game, and the first player to reach Pauline at the top gets a bonus score as well. So it was very clearly marketed at children, whereas nowadays you'll get board games like, I don't know, the Resident Evil 2 board game, the Resident Evil 3 board game, Dark Souls the board game, Bloodborne the board game, Cup board game, the dice head. What's that game? Cuphead the board game, a fast-paced dice rolling action board game adventure, or whatever the subtitle is. You'll get Frostpunk the board game, Come in My Ass the board game. There's so many board games. Doom the board game, Elder Scrolls the board game, Fallout the board game,
Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the flamethrower.
The thing is, a lot of these games are trying to do what the video game does, just slower and worse. And I don't think it's necessarily a massively new thing. It's not like in the last 2 years, because I'm looking at, there's one that's based on World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King, for instance, had a fairly in-depth board game that plays a lot like Arkham Horror, from what I can tell. But it's just who are these marketed to? Because I think the people who like the video game probably would rather just play the video game, and people who like board games are probably happier playing good board games than bad video game board game adaptations. That's the thing that is confusing to me, is why is there a market for this? I don't think I've ever played a video game board game that I thought, yeah, this is really good, actually, I'd play more of this, whereas there are movie game board games I played that I like Jaws the board game.
Jaws the board game.
Jaws the board game.
And
Good game.
The Thing, the board game, which I haven't played, I've heard is quite good as well, for instance. So there's stuff like that. Battlestar Galactica, the board game, not a movie, but, same sort of vibe. But yeah, I don't think I've ever played a good video game board game adaptation.
Oh, it's just collectible tat. They don't put effort into the design because it costs £70 and it's just a load of fucking cardboard and little pieces of plastic.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end. There's a massive profit margin.
Maybe eventually I could get out my Resident Evil 3 board game and play it properly, and maybe that's good. I don't know.
I think I've played the Resident Evil 3 board game, and from what I remember, it's not bad, but it's like playing 1 minute of Resident Evil in 1 hour.
I think there's a lot of, especially third-person shooters and other sort of action-type genres like that. You've got the Resident Evil board games, you've got Gears of War, the board game, Doom, the board game, are all these kind of, you move a little guy around series of rooms, and then when you enter a room, there is a deck of cards that you draw from that tells you what the encounter in the room is, and you have to roll dice to kill the other little models and then move on to the next room. All of these games are like this. I am sure that there are better games from people like Games Workshop, for instance, that do this better as miniatures games, like, say, Space Hulk that we've played before, that have a very similar kind of scenario and are not based on a video game. And why would you choose to play the video game one rather than a good one that already exists?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I agree with you.
To highlight this, I would like to talk a little bit about two specific board games. One, have any of you heard of the Guilty Gear Strive board game board game card game?
I saw it and I went, that's fucking funny. I'm not going anywhere near it.
$130?
Yeah, $130. That is, so I could buy the video game and all of the DLC for less than that, I'm pretty sure. And sure, I'd have to buy a console as well, but most people have probably got a video games console, or at least a computer,
There's not even little figures, there's fucking cardboard standees.
And 20-odd decks of cards for the characters. And what this game is trying to be an adaptation of a 2D, very fast fighting game, and the different attacks that the characters have basically are like a top trumps card, if anyone remembers top trumps. I don't know if they had that in the US. I think they did. Basically, your card will have a series of numbers, and if your numbers are better than the other person's numbers, you win that interaction. And at the same time, you can move your characters around the board a little bit, so it's not a board really, it's a track. So you can move to the left or to the right, but there is no other axes to move. And you can burn cards to chain attacks into a combo and things like that as well. Why would you play this? Why would you play this when you could just play the fighting game? And if Guilty Gear is not your thing and you'd rather play a slower paced fighting game, why did you buy a Guilty Gear board game? This is the one where I'm like, who would play this rather than playing the actual game? This is maybe for people who are like, hey, Guilty Gear's cool, you guys want to play Guilty Gear? No, we don't play fighting games. Well, that's fine because I have the board game. So you can play it with one other person because it's a 2-player game, and they'll be like, I don't know who any of these characters are, I don't know why these cards do these things, what is this guy called, why does he have hair like that?
I've just looked up Level 99 Games, which is a company that makes this, and discovered that they are the designers of Millennium Blades. If anyone has heard of this, it's the worst board game I have ever played, I think.
Oh, that's high
in
praise.
My life.
That's high praise from you.
It is a piece of shit board game where people go around like playing cards out in front of them, and each card has an ability that it is so powerful that it can just completely ruin the next hour of play for a random person on the board. It is a deeply evil and idiotic game.
Is it like Munchkin?
It's as poorly balanced as Munchkin, but in many ways it's worse because Munchkin isn't designed to be a real game, and I think this is.
The other game I want to talk about is the Darkest Dungeon board game. Moogle, do you own that? I feel like that might be something you kickstart to back.
No, I went nowhere near that one.
Good. You're right to do that. So my friend Tom backed the Darkest Dungeon Kickstarter board game project, which basically I played it a little bit with him on Tabletop Sim. It's 4-player, it's cooperative. You each take the role of one of the, what do they call them? Dungeoneers? Or whatever they're called? What are they?
The heroes, the characters.
Heroes, yeah, the characters.
People,
so you can play as like the doctor or the highwayman or whatever the guys are, the knight, etc. And you all explore the dungeon together, and you have fights where you play cards based on your character's class and things like that. And it basically tries to simulate the video game. Now, my question is, why would you want to do that when it would be a lot easier, quicker, and more true experience to sit down in a room with your friend who launches the game and then says, right, I'm going to play as the first guy in our party, you pick another guy and you can play as him, and you just tell me what to click when it's your turn. It's going to be a lot faster. You're going to be able to play a lot more rounds of it in the same amount of time. There's flashy animations. There's going to be more sort of that you can pack into the game, more random elements, more things. You can upgrade your guys more easily, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, getting to the point. So my friend Tom backs this Kickstarter project, and then 10 months later or whatever, they say, yeah, we're fully funded, but we need more money to actually send the product to you guys. And so he said, well, yes, I would like the thing I have paid for. So he sent them more money, and he got the base game. He had also paid, I think, for the first expansion as part of his Kickstarter backing. So another 4 months goes down the line, and they say, okay, so we need a bit more money to get this expansion out. So, he gets, I think he got the first expansion, but they said to people, if you want the second expansion, you can buy that as an add-on, but there's a limited number, and he missed the cutoff for that. So he was annoyed by that he didn't get it. as it turns out, the second expansion never came out, I don't think. And a lot of people who paid for it, so if you paid a lot of money up front for the start of the Kickstarter project, you would get all the expansions included. And a lot of people just didn't receive it. Some people who paid $500 to back this Kickstarter didn't get their first base set of the game because they missed the deadline for paying for the extra shipping, and now they can't get in touch with the company to say, hey, where's my stuff, because the company's PR is really bad.
No, they can't because they're now bankrupt.
Yes, so we will get to that. When my friend Tom found out that he was maybe missing some of his stuff, he went to their Discord to find out who to talk to, and everyone said, oh, you got to talk to, I can't remember his name, I'm going to say Clyde. You got to talk to Clyde. And Clyde was the one community manager in this Discord. And everyone was messaging Clyde, where's my stuff? So you would drop Clyde a message and then wait maybe 2 weeks to see if Clyde would respond to let you know how to get your stuff. Since then, the company has sold the IP for the game to a different company, and the other company has taken over not just the Darkest Dungeon board game, but also 2 other board games that were being kickstarted, and has sent some what they are calling core packages of those 2 other board games to the backers, which do not include half the stuff that those people paid for. And there's jack all you can do about it because of the way Kickstarter works. So I think maybe what was happening was this company took on too many projects at once, used the money from one Kickstarter to try and get the other Kickstarter off the ground, didn't deliver on the first Kickstarter, didn't deliver on the second Kickstarter, didn't deliver on the third Kickstarter, and then folded and went bust. Somebody's probably run away with the money. And like coming back to what Catsman was saying about it's easy to make money off people who like an IP, I think that's exactly what happened here. People are making these video game board games because they're like, idiots will buy it, and then we just run with the money, whatever.
I think this is a named scam. Putting the profit from your first thing into a second thing that you insist will make more money is functionally some kind of Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it?
But I mean, yeah, I don't miss the Kickstarter days. Put it like that. Because let me tell you, there are lots of Kickstarter projects that I have played where I've gone, wow, that's really good. And very few of them have been ones that I backed.
Christ, what a shit show.
And the problem with a lot of Kickstarter projects, I mean, there are Kickstarter board games that are not based on video games as well, where you just can't buy that board game anymore because it had a limited run on Kickstarter, and even if it's really good and you played it on Tabletop Sim and you're like, hi, I like that, nobody's picked it up to publish it. So there are only a few thousand copies in existence, and you will never get a physical copy of them.
Well, that is the hell of board games generally. Like, you know, when Race for the Galaxy went out of print, I just waited 3 years for them to print another one.
Yeah, and we've got the same problem with Chaos in the Old World, which we all quite like, and it'd be nice to maybe be able to buy extra sets of it, but it is in IP hell.
At Space Hulk?
I like it when a group of companies can't agree on something, so they just decide that none of them will make any money selling something that people obviously want.
Space Hulk has had, 4 editions at this point? And they sell out normally within, 3rd edition sold out within 2 weeks, but that was before the internet was such a fucking shit show for board games. 4th edition, I think, sold out in probably a day or minutes or something like that, and they just don't reprint them. You wait another 10 to 15 years until they deign to go, you know what, we should probably make that Space Hulk thing again, and it will sell out in 2 minutes to scalpers who will sell it for 500 quid each, probably.
We were talking as well about whether to play that Kickstarter board game that got shut down because the Sun got angry at the lady.
Yeah, that's on Tabletop Sim now, so we can try that one out.
Jeez, that's a blast from the past. We were talking about that we were talking about that 10 years ago.
I don't remember this. Please refresh my memory.
There was a board game Kickstarter. I can't even remember what the name of the game is called. It begins with a Z or something like that. The object of the game or the theme of the game is completely stupid because this was back in the days of when everyone wanted to be on Kickstarter because it was oh my god, we can cut out the middleman, we can make whatever we want now. And people saw these, ridiculous claims, and you just put money in it, and eventually you'll get the thing. And this was one of the first instances where people were not going to get what they paid for, essentially. And the updates for this Kickstarter start out as very rational. It's like, hey, the rulebook's completed, I've got the component files ready, I'm printing next week. And then eventually a couple months of no activity will go by, and then there'll be a post that says, hey, there's a problem. An entity who claims they are the Sun is telling me that I am not allowed to release this game because it has secrets in the game design that I was not aware of. And it just went back and forth like that.
It's called Catalkia? Catalica.
That sounds like it could have the secrets of the Sun in it, to be honest.
I vaguely remember this.
I'm sure we talked about this back in the DMC Devil May Cry days. Halcyon days. The creator posted on Kickstarter 5 years ago, responding to someone complaining that there was no game, saying, "Eat a dirt sandwich, Joe Bob."
Eventually, like, some copies of Catalica got released to people who paid for it, but eventually the creator was like, I don't think Catalica is a good game. Here's another game instead that I made called something, it was called like Attack of the Candy Kingdom or something like that.
Candy Realms? I'm looking at the
Realms.
updates.
Yeah, it was a completely different game than what people had paid for.
Well, you know, the way commercial board games are made is that they're like incubated. You know, someone comes up with an idea and then there is like months or years of iteration. I don't know exactly how much of the design work was already done on this board game, but I do wonder if it went to print and then the creator discovered that it was a rubbish game.
Well, the creator said they'd been working on the game for 2 decades.
Yeah, but you can't make a board game alone.
I've got the quote. It's kind of difficult to find. She probably took it off Kickstarter. Ever since about December, I've been harassed by a voice that is claiming to be the Sun, and it has been attacking me and harassing me almost every hour of the day. This is the best way I can explain what I am going through. If anyone has any advice or can offer any help with the problem, it was not really what I was hoping for and was very much not what I was told making this game was going to be like last year when I started working on it.
I mean, I can't harsh on someone who may have had a mental break whilst spending 20 years designing a board game.
That sounds like a psychosis to me.
To be honest, the Sun is harassing me as someone who's sensitive to bright lights. Morning people and people who can go outside on sunny days without sunglasses, get fucked. You have no idea of the suffering I have to endure.
So here's a list of England and Wales football mascots. Now, there's some crazy ones, and unfortunately because they're in alphabetical order, we get one of the standouts early on. But most of them are like, because the way England has a lot of towns and a lot of counties, and each one has their own football team, and in order to progress and elevate the status of that football team, you need a football mascot. However, a lot of these teams are in bumfuck nowhere, where they have very little money and resources to afford a good football mascot outfit. So a lot of these things are incredibly bad or disgusting creatures. But I don't know if you want to go through, just scroll through them and point out the ones. But the one for West Bromwich Albion,
Yes!
Football Club, is a mascot called Boiler Man.
Yes!
Which is a man who is... It's basically an anthropomorphized boiler.
He's a combi boiler. He's
a combi boiler.
he is sponsored by Ideal Boilers, who must be like a local boiler company.
Love that.
Oh, but yeah, West Bromwich Albion, Boiler Man.
When I saw Boiler Man written down, I expected it to be a guy in like a plumber's outfit, like a big man in a plumber's outfit, and then finding that it's actually a man dressed as a combi boiler is hilarious.
That's so much better. I love it.
He looks so don't at me for this, but the contrast of having like the thin legs coming out from under the boiler,
yeah,
I'm kind of turned on. There's a picture of the boiler man like relaxing on like a sofa in a sexy pose. Like it's all leg. Is anyone seeing this? It's kind
He's got
of
a very
sexual.
Miss Pac-Man energy going on.
Yes, definitely. Is there a Mrs. Boilerman? Wait. There is I think the Ideal Boiler Company had either print advert or maybe even a video advert. There's a parody of the film Ghost, and there is a boiler seducing a woman who is doing pottery from behind.
What the fuck?
It is just full-on Boiler Man doing the pose from the movie Ghost.
I don't know if Boiler Man is in this one, but the name of the ad campaign was Heartwarming Moments, and this is one of the videos from it.
Yes, Boiler Man is in this video.
This is Officer and a Gentleman, and the boiler is being carried out by the naval man.
Mitch, can we talk about Hangus the monkey?
Oh, yes, Hangus the monkey, yes!
So do people know why Hartlepool's mascot is a monkey?
Do you want me to tell you the whole story, or do you want to do it?
No, you do it, Specs. It's a you story.
I can't remember when. It was during some time we were at war with the French. So we're talking many, many years ago. When I say we, I mean the United Kingdom. And a
not this
monkey
podcast.
washed up on the beach at Hartlepool, and because it was hairy and smelly, and I believe it was dressed in a naval uniform because it had been like the sort of mascot of a boat it was on or something, people thought that it was a Frenchman because it didn't speak any English. So they had a trial of the Frenchman in the courts in Hartlepool and found it guilty of being French and therefore trying to attack Great Britain, and they hanged the monkey to death because it had committed the crime of being French. And now the local football mascot is Hangus the monkey, so called because he was hanged to death. Further to that, Hangus the monkey ran for mayor in Hartlepool at one point and won. And Hangus the monkey was the mayor for a year. And afterwards, because the guy who was inside the mascot costume as Hangus the monkey did a really good job and had learned a lot about being a mayor on the job. Like before this, I think he had he had some sort of management degree or something, but he obviously not enough that he had ever been mayor before. But he ran as himself, not as Hangus, and they re-elected him because he did a really good job as Hangus the monkey, mayor of Hartlepool.
And sometimes you might refer to a person from Hartlepool as a monkey hanger.
Wonderful. I'm reading the article about the guy who went on to be the mayor during an away match against Scunthorpe United. I can't say that; I get banned.
It's pronounced Scunthorpe, actually.
Well, you're so right. Hangus was famously thrown out for the first time in his career. A steward took offence at Hangus standing up and leading the Hartlepool fans in song. Hangus once again angered the stewards when he simulated sex on a female steward and was promptly escorted away in front of a bemused set of away supporters. Wonderful.
Oh, careful. Steady on there, Hangus.
My local football mascot is called the Jolly Green Giant. He's from Yeovil Town Football Club. Ooh up the Glovers, or whatever we say around there. He is just a horrible green man.
He wants you to eat your vegetables. Eat all of your vegetables, Specs.
I don't think he's the same green giant as that green giant. He's not like ho 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 green giant. He's a different green giant.
Yeah, he is a different green giant. He's wearing he's a strange creature with dark hair and a stripy shirt and a big tall hat. He's quite horrid, actually.
Yeah.
Did you have any other particularly good football mascots, Animitch?
There is a one called Krusty the Pie.
Fuck me.
For Wigan FC.
Hey! Up Wigan!
Wigan! Smack bum, pee wet, smack bum, pee wet.
He looks like a creature from Catchphrase.
It's a Krusty Pie! Na, 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 na.
No.
I like him. I think he's nice.
There's a Krusty the Pie You can get a Krusty soft toy.
I should buy that for Bran when he comes to the UK, shouldn't I? Here's the official football mascot of Wigan.
There are these two absolutely disgusting creatures. Sammy the Shrimp and Elvis J. Eel. They're the worst, especially Eel, because it's an eel, but they've given him a pompadour, which I find really unsettling.
Do you think they should just let furries design these characters?
I mean, if you look at the Premier League ones, quite a lot of them do.
Oh man, the eel he looks like a lemming from the game Lemmings.
Yeah, the problem with Elvis the Eel is that he looks too much like an eel, and I don't like the way eels look.
Oh no, he looks a bit like a Tonberry, actually. Maybe I'm thinking of Tonberries.
Patrick Thistle, that's a famous one. Google Patrick Thistle if you want to see a football mascot that looks like an angry sun.
Here's what happens when you put way too much money into it.
Oh, I don't like that.
That's Chelsea, by the way.
Ew, I don't like those.
Yeah.
Oh no, they remind me of Father of the Pride, and not in a good way.
So earlier on, if you look upwards, there's an Everton player with like just what looks a bit like a blender in his hands. So apparently Everton had a mascot until like a few years ago, but then they lost like whatever sponsorship it was that they had. So they replaced it with like a little robot that has a camera in it that lets sick children watch the match from their hospital beds. And it's called their virtual mascot.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
That's cute. That's cute. More high effort for fursuits over here.
Yeah, if you make it look too much like a fursuit, I think it actually does look way worse. And if you try and make it look like a sentient pie...
Oh, I found a really good for Fulham.
Oh, what's Fulham got?
Fulham FC. Terry Bites.
Googling Terry Bites. What will I see?
Oh my fucking god. Incredible. Sponsored by Dabs. Oh, I remember Dabs.
He's a computer. His name's Terry Bites.
He's a computer.
I love that.
This is a very like British core pun. I think there's only one file photo of Terry Bites in existence.
I think so too.
And you found it. He's otherwise been erased from history. He's been airbrushed out.
There is a Kendall mint cake mascot.
Yeah.
Called Minty from Kendall.
Hey, that's me.
They do call you that.
I've heard them say that.
Is he just a square of mint cake?
Yeah, in a rep outfit.
I don't like the way he looks. And who has taken a bite out of this man?
He's just had a bite taken out of him. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, shaped like there's a bite taken out of him.
Many now take part in the Mascot Grand National held each year. Well, I know what I'm adding to the sports wheel.
Do they run? Do they run around like a thing?
Oh, it's awful. It's just awful. Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, hey, that might be Terry Bites. There's a guy dressed as a computer.
That could be Terry Bites. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
It might just be that he's too obscure to have images on the internet tagged correctly as him.
That guy's cheating. He's taking his head off.
That should be grounds for disqualification. You know, some of these don't care and they're just having fun.
The prawn in the background has fallen over near the sun sign.
The swan, I didn't cop that it was a swan. I didn't see the beak, so I thought, is that just a Klansman?
Oh, now that you've said that, it really does look a lot like, yeah.
The owl is going for it. Is that the Sheffield Wednesday owl?
I'm sorry, but the owl here looks like a fucking tryhard. Oh, look at that. He's used up all of his meter already. Idiot. Should have paced himself.
I like that one of them is just like a pantomime horse.
One of them appears to be dressed as Mario. Don't tell Nintendo.
I love that they have to guide the prawn to the finish because he can't see.
The man in that prawn costume, he's beaten and bruised and battered. He'll be in hospital for weeks after this. He did it for the love of the game.
I had a dream that I got matched on Tinder with an account called the Per Nibble Gobbler, which was a pile of like 8 men who were writhing and biting each other. They were covered in baked beans and chips. They kept trying to munch me. I think I woke up in a cold sweat. after having been bitten on the calf during this dream. It was horrible. They were old, naked men who were all just covered in beans. You know that slime that beans come in? They were covered in that.
So it's like the Greasy Strangler, but it was the Beanman.
Yeah, I think about the Nibble Gobbler sometimes because it's such a visceral name.
It wasn't just that, it was called the per-nibble gobbler. Like, per nibble, it would also gobble. For each nibble, one gobble would occur. I had a dream where I was wrestling, and for some reason there was a rule that to get a pin, your penis had to be touching the mat. I was pinning, and the ref said it didn't count, so I told him to wait just a second, and then willed myself into an erection so that I could touch the mat with my cock.
Wonderful.
That's just your thoughts. That's just what you're like.
He is like that, yeah.
Yeah, this is my brain.
Mash sent us this dream. He says, dreamt I was at Warhammer World, but it was weird. There was an odd installation of a circle of toilets facing inward towards one another in the middle of the room with the Warhammer staff all around. I was unhappy.
God bless you, Mash.
I visited a new tourist attraction that had just opened in Leeds, the city of 1,000 tears, named the Doctor Who Experience. I don't like Doctor Who, but it didn't matter because the experience had nothing to do with Doctor Who. One room was bare except for a laptop on the floor, which had a text document on the screen which just said, bigots and assholes. The second room was a gallery overflowing with Sonic the Hedgehog porn. I remember finding the experience very disappointing, although at the time I didn't question why none of the contents were themed after Doctor Who.
Nothing too interesting happened in my dream, but I slept in bedding which bore the words, good dreams to a sure pooper, and there was another set which had an image of Sonic the Hedgehog standing cross-legged over a puddle of piss with a sheepish look on his face. I don't remember this was this me.
What the fuck?
Now, you had that dream years ago. My question is, did you see a Sonic the Hedgehog Master System advert that advertised Sonic as a good pisser? And did that incept that image into your brain?
It may have done, yeah. I don't know. This is very, good dreams to a sure pooper. It's great.
Good dreams to a sure pooper.
It's good dreams to a super pooper, actually.
Oh, sorry, good dreams to a super pooper.
Which I think is even better, in my opinion.
Yeah, good dreams to a super pooper.
Rusty had a dream that featured a miniature couch made of Pringles.
Very Swiss dream to have.
People in Switzerland love their ornate handmade cowbells and things. Specs. I had a dream where all the toilets in the house were broken. I kept pissing in them and they would overflow.
A lot of my dreams are piss and shit related, aren't they?
They truly are. Have we talked about the shit rocket on the podcast before? I swear we must have
I think
done.
that was
yeah,
like
we
the
have,
first
haven't we?
dream talk we had involved the shit rocket, as you put it.
I had a dream in which I was playing Smash Bros, but the loading screens were replaced with videos of naked women. They were positioned so that you couldn't see anything, but as the loading went on, they would move and you'd start to be able to see sexy bits. However, just as the sexy bits were about to be revealed, Masahiro Sakurai himself would appear in the loading screen, banging symbols together and obscuring the lady from view. Every time I lost a game, the loading screens would get longer and there would be more symbols involved. At one point, Sakurai teamed up with a robotic chimp in a fez in order to bang more symbols. Thanks, Specs.
Is that a Specs stream? I don't remember reading that one.
From 5 years ago.
That's 2020. Oh, God.
That's amazing.
Oh.
My last dream in the Dream Hut is dreamed I went to a really fancy restaurant, but ended up leaving without ordering because there was gorilla meat on the menu. And on the way out, I lectured the owners about eating gorilla, and they called me a snowflake.
You're a big
He comes in
softie.
peace.
We got a softie over here.
Softie.
Softies.
I was having a conversation about softies with someone the other day, and I realised that maybe the word soft, I don't know if it came from the Beano, but they use the word softy in the Beano a lot to refer to people like Walter the Softy, and like the teacher in the Bash Street Kids gets referred to as a softy. I don't know if it was common British speak
I'm
back
sure
in
there
the
was
day.
a slang for softy for someone who's sensitive before the Beano adopted it.
Maybe, I guess. I've just scrolled to a good one from Schlotz that sounds fun to read. Do you mind if I do this one?
Yeah, go nuts.
I dreamed that we discovered a method to turn books and other paper products back into trees, and the first thing that we did with this newfound power was use the books based on hate speech to reforest the American swamp regions. The resulting trees were sentient, and their ideologies were the polar opposites of those in the books that were used to make them. So the swamp was just full of angry trees that would break into songs about shoving narrow-minded people into holes in the hills. All of this was going on during my sister's wake, meaning my sister had died, which was a real bummer, but it kind of took a back seat to the orchestra of violently self-righteous trees singing across the countryside.
Here's one from Specs. I had a dream where I called Prince Andrew a paedophile in front of a room full of people. They were very angry and I apologized and told them that maybe I wouldn't have said it if I had known that they were there.
Please end the podcast with the sound of your big fart from your sleep.
Oh, that fart is good. It does go like a trombone. It's like someone sort of putting the whammy bar on the trombone, you know?
I like the sound of a man reminiscing about his own farts.
Oh, rude. After all the things I've done for you as well. You can look at yourself and see what it's like to be me, a starving mother, out on my own in the wilderness, trying against me. To have that come across my door, especially when I just spent the last 10 minutes trying to improve your situation. I see how it is. No respect. That's the problem with the youth these days. No respect for families. No respect for mothers. No respect for cars. No respect, that's what I say.
When are we going to talk about the TV that fucking fell off the fucking wall?
We'll talk about it next time. Moogle, if you're just patient and you're a good boy,
Be next podcast.
we'll get TV falling off the wall next podcast. But we just
I want to talk about the TV falling off the wall.
we just don't have enough time to fit it in.